Chapter 77 Nuclear Bomb Cleaning Operation, China Monster Research Institute. Dean, your tea. Zhao Ziyan walked into Yang Mo's office with the hot tea in hand. Put it on the table. Yang Mo lowered his head to study the classic of mountains and seas without raising his head. President, the cabinet has just handed down a document saying that the United States has convened the 5 permanent leaders and plans to hold a global meeting. After discussion, China has decided not to participate in this meeting. Zhao Ziyan put down tea while reporting. In these few days, the global situation is turbulent. A third-level chosen one was born in the United States, and 2 fallen cities were recovered one after another. Kill a lot of monsters. Global prestige greatly increased, just like the sun is rising. Didn't you participate? Yang Mo put down the classic of mountains and seas and was a little surprised. Decision of the cabinet. It coincides with him. Although the country has been cleared of monsters, the threat of the civilization trial has not disappeared. China now. We need to concentrate on quickly digesting controllable nuclear fusion, improving our scientific and technological strength, and enhancing our own foundation. As for international prestige, it is no longer important because, after interrogating the young Demon Clan in the past few days, he had already come up with an even crazier idea. As long as the third important weapon of the country can be built, China's opponents will no longer be limited to the earth. Yang Mo muttered to himself, his eyes bright. Deep in his eyes, there is endless ambition quietly surging. No longer limited to the earth? Zhao Ziyan blinked, a little confused, but the gray fog has blocked us, and no spacecraft can escape from the earth. Yang Mo smiled slightly without explaining too much. He asked, is there any new progress on the crystal side? Now, the third round of trials is on the 14th day. The 12-sided crystal, it has swallowed more than 4,000 monster corpses. It has grown to 2 meters high, with lush branches and leaves, but there are no signs of flowering and fruiting yet. Zhao Ziyan sighed, looking a little depressed. Just wait patiently. Yang Mo shrugged and said with a smile, after all, it is something that the Queen Mother of the West once cultivated. It will definitely not be easy to succeed. Zhao Ziyan nodded. Then I suddenly remembered something, and continued to report, oh, by the way, the Ministry of Science and Technology has started to build a controllable nuclear fusion energy station, and it is expected to be completed within half a month. Among them is an energy station located in Linzi. When Yang Mo's expression lit up and he couldn't help but show joy. Controllable nuclear fusion. The country has been digesting it for so long and finally took action. This also means the Ministry of Science and Technology has initially mastered the application method of controllable nuclear fusion energy. This can be fed back into various fields. One of them was built in Linzi. Obviously, IT was prepared for that mysterious stone tablet. Only when the energy storage is sufficient, the stone tablet can be activated again, and he can enter Jixia Academy for the second time. 3 days later, the United States, large meeting room. After receiving the call from the United States, all the major powers around the world gathered here. Into the countries of Gaul and Sakura responded most actively. China is absent. Jobs glanced at the representatives of various countries, his face a little unhappy. China is like this. Once it achieves something, it is complacent. The representative of Sakura country took the initiative to get close to Jobs, smiled and flattered. You don't need to pay too much attention to them, the rest are here, it doesn't matter whether they come or not. Representatives from other countries saw the situation. Also spoke one after another. Follow Sakura country and praised the United States. Jobs looked at the crowd, the corners of his mouth twitched a few times, and a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. Later, the meeting officially begins. As the initiator, Steve Jobs was the first to stand up and speak. Since the civilization trial, monsters have arrived one after another, causing the global situation to become increasingly corrupt. Now, we have entered the third round. In addition to big countries like us, there are hundreds of small countries struggling on the line of life and death, and dozens of small countries have perished. The words just fell. The expressions of the representatives from various countries changed slightly, and they were all a little ugly. Actually, the situation in each of their countries is not optimistic. Only by relying on strong control and troops, the situation was able to be stabilized. IT will not collapse like those small countries. After those small countries perished, the people completely lost their ability to resist and became a paradise for monsters to be born. Jobs scanned the audience with a cold look. In some small countries, even the 4th level 001 undead have been born, which is a huge threat to human civilization. Here, I would like to appeal to everyone to take the initiative to assume the responsibility of a major country. It is our duty to maintain global security, said. Jobs paused and said in a deep voice, I propose to launch a nuclear strike to purify all monsters. The words have not yet finished. Everyone in the house was shocked. Representatives from various countries looked at Jobs in horror, their hearts trembling slightly. A nuclear strike? It's only the third round. Has human civilization been forced to this point? It's just, although those small countries have perished, there are still a large number of civilians in their territory. Rough calculation. At least 1 billion people. Don't worry, we in the United States are not that crazy yet. Jobs seemed to have guessed what everyone was thinking, and continued, these countries have been invaded by monsters and a large number of people are homeless. I hope that everyone can shoulder the responsibility of a big country and take the initiative to accept these billion refugees. Adhering to the principle of voluntariness, they can join whichever country they want to join. Everyone heard this, the expression moved slightly. I finally figured it out. The United States convened a meeting, and it turned out that they were waiting here. Among the countries in the world now, China and the United States are the most powerful. This way, the choice of those 1 billion refugees is already conceivable. They will all fall into the arms of the United States and promote the crazy expansion of the United States around the world. What? Jobs glanced at everyone and asked coldly, do you have any opinions on my proposal? Hearing this, representatives from various countries remained silent and lowered their heads. Didn't dare to speak. In that case, let's vote. Everyone looked at each other, raising placards one after another. Vote. Final. The 42 countries present unanimously approved the proposal. Then I announced that in 7 days, all countries will cooperate to carry out nuclear bomb cleaning operations. Jobs took a deep breath and read out a long list of names of small countries. These small countries, they are all small countries that have been declared dead by the trials of civilization. There are a few more, currently on the verge of struggle, not destroyed, but they have offended their country in the past. Chapter 78, The Loki Development of China, the Sacred Wood Mandui. And within these 7 days, people in these small countries can choose to join any of these 42 countries, get the corresponding nationality, become a legal citizen, accept the blessings of this country. Well, our Sakura country is almost unable to bear it. 9 cities have fallen. Can Steve come to our country? After the meeting, the representative of Sakura country found Jobs and asked in a low voice, sorry. Jobs had no expression on his face and flatly refused. Steve needs to guard our country, and there is no way to travel to other countries in a short period of time. Although Sakura country is very obedient, always following them in the United States, but now is a critical moment, and they themselves are not enough of this world-class combat-powered IT is even less possible to help other countries. China, when the United States is plotting to carve up the world, IT is calm here, far away from the center of all storms. Stability. Peaceful. Be at peace with the world. 1.4 billion people are living and working normally as usual. In the global environment of corruption. This place looks like the legendary Peach Blossom Spring, Cloud City. In a certain community, and opened the door and returned home, still holding the vegetables and beef bought from the vegetable market. Husband, I bought your favorite dish. After entering the door, she hugged her husband and walked straight into the kitchen, start cooking skillfully. Not long after. A few plates of fragrant Sichuan cuisine were placed on the dining table. Annie, your cooking skills are getting better and better, and you have actually learned all our Sichuan cuisine. The husband's face was full of surprise and he did not hesitate to praise him. The look in my wife's eyes, IT is also full of pampering and love. He and Annie met while studying in the United States, after studying abroad, and followed him back to China, got married, and settled here. Even the nationality has officially joined China. Let's eat. And smiled softly and turned on the TV. She knows, this is my husband's habit. He likes to read some current affairs news while eating. The United States actually wants to launch nuclear bombs to cleanse those small countries? While the husband was eating, he suddenly frowned, commented, this is Sima Zhao's intention for the United States. Everyone knows it. It is clear that he wants to take the opportunity to swallow up those small countries and strengthen himself. Finished. He couldn't help but look at his wife and suddenly realized that his wife was also an American. It doesn't matter. And smiled bitterly and said sadly, since the monster invaded the city of Amden, I have no relatives in the United States. Although the United States quickly recaptured the city, but all her relatives were lost in that battle and there was no news at all. Maybe he was eaten by a monster, maybe he was infected and assimilated by a monster, or maybe he died in the hands of the American military. You still have me. The husband held his wife's hand and comforted her gently. Annie wiped the red and swollen corners of her eyes, picked up the remote control, and changed the channel. Just right, switch to the technology channel. On the TV, the host's magnetic voice came out. Now broadcast this news. Recently, our country plans to build 3 controllable nuclear fusion energy stations. It is understood that only 2 energy stations can meet the supply of all energy in the country. Breakthroughs in energy technology have broken the shackles of science and technology and brought about rapid development in other fields in our country. In the field of artificial intelligence, the first joint application of ultrasound and intelligence systems. The bioprocessor platform will be launched soon. The domestic application of monster materials has broken through to the 0.1 nanometer level for the first time. Construction robot technology is mature, and robots may be used in batches in future infrastructure projects. Ionic hydrogen battery can transport and store hydrogen at normal temperature and pressure with the help of bacteria. Photonic chip field, listen to the news. The 2 people who were eating couldn't help but look at each other. They are not related professionals and cannot understand these cutting-edge scientific and technological information at all. All I know is, China seems to have been developing in a low-key manner, and its technological level is rising faster than they imagined. We in China are really awesome. And swallowed her saliva and said with a complicated expression, having lived in China for more than 10 years, she already has a certain sense of belonging and identification with this country. Even Chinese, I speak it very fluently, more proficient than my native language. Coupled with the emergence of civilization trials, she felt even more fortunate that she had met her husband and followed him to join China. Now, there are probably countless people from all over the world trying to get into China, but they were all turned away. Extraordinary times. China has clearly announced that it has closed its borders and only those with Chinese nationality can enter. A person who has voluntarily given up Chinese nationality, even if he has Chinese ancestry, you can't enter China now. Monster Research Institute. Cultivation warehouse. A plant about 3 meters tall and covered with cross-shaped spikes is growing quietly. It seems ordinary, but its thick roots are rooted in the corpses of monsters hungrily absorbing nutrients. Still no movement? Zhao Ziyan observed carefully for a moment, shook her head and left. This is one of her daily tasks, check the growth progress of the seed and report it to Yang Mo. However, just when she turned around, on a certain branch of the plant in the cultivation warehouse, a flower bud grew quietly. It finally bloomed. This bottomless pit ate up to 5,000 monsters. It's just that this flower bud feels a bit strange. Why does it look like a chip? Having said that, I also think it looks like a chip, with no basic structure of a flower bud. What kind of plant is this? The branches are full of sharp thorns, and the flowers are so weird. Outside the cultivation warehouse. A group of researchers and botanists quickly gathered around and started a heated discussion while staring at the buds. This plant, does it look like anything existing on Earth? Other plants are blooming. It suddenly grew a tiny chip-shaped bud. If they were not worried about damaging its growth state, they would all want to take off the chip and slice it for study. This is, Zhao Ziyan looked surprised and hurried to Yang Mo's office, reported the situation. Hear the words, Yang Mo rushed to the training warehouse immediately. Everyone saw this, they all gave way. Holy Mumandui. Yang Mo's eyes were shining and he was very excited. Yes, it is Holy Mumandui. Everyone was stunned. A botanist reacted, hurriedly picked up the classic of mountains and seas and read through it quickly. Finally, relevant records about Holy Mumandui were found in the Haniai Shijing. P.S. The new book issue is tentatively scheduled to have 2 chapters per day. When it goes on the shelves next week, it will be updated with 20,000 words per day. It will be enough. Chapter 79, The Identity of Queen Mother of the West, a great scientist among the Demon Clan? In the north of Kaming, there are the Shiro tree, the pearl tree, the jade tree, and the immortal tree. The Phoenix Emperor and the Luan bird all wear hats. There are also Liju, Muhi, Cypress, Ganshui, and sacred trees. Mandui, one day, Tingmuyajio. Everyone came forward, looking at this text repeatedly. My eyes became brighter and brighter. Holy Mumandui, hard blowjob. The appearance coincides with the plant they cultivated. Lingmu refers to the tall and straight tree body, while Fangjiao refers to the tree body with many barbs and intertwined canines. Combined with the above, Kaming refers to the Kaming beast, which is a member of the demon clan that has descended. He lived in ancient Kunlun and was one of the 2 capable generals under the Queen Mother of the West. Responsibility, it is to guard these magical plants. Have we really cultivated what Queen Mother she wanted? I thought of this, everyone swallowed and couldn't help but look at each other. Can't hide the shock in my heart. The Queen Mother of the West lived secretly in the Kunlun Mountains and enslaved the ancient ancestors. What they wanted to cultivate was actually recreated by them. Ancient mythology. It actually came to reality. But why? The flowers blooming on the Hollywood Mandui look like chips. Zhao Ziyan on the side was a little confused and couldn't help but ask, the buds on this plant are different, looks weird. It is completely inconsistent with the normal growth rules of plants. The original text said it, after taking the fruit of holy Momandui, people can increase their wisdom, and the Queen Mother of the West is a demon clan. Logically speaking, what you practice is the method of the demon clan, but the chip is a product of the field of science and technology. I don't understand this either. Yang Emo frowned slightly, and many doubts flashed in his eyes. The Queen Mother of the West, immortal tree seed, 12-sided crystal, Hollywood Mandui. Obviously everything is correct, but something feels wrong again. Is the Queen Mother of the West a powerful scientist from the Demon Clan who came to ancient China to occupy the Kunlun Mountains for the purpose of conducting biotechnology research? Zhao Ziyan blinked and suddenly thought Yang Mo. The corners of his mouth twitched a few times. Some people are amazed at Zhao Ziyan's imagination, but he did not directly deny her guess, but took a deep breath, said in a deep voice, "If you want to know the answer, you can only cultivate the bud first and see what its final form is." Time passes slowly. 4 days later, the United States Department of Defense. Minister, in the past 7 days, we have received more than 80 million people from various countries. The secretary looked at Jobs and reported excitedly, among them are elites, scientific researchers, and theorists in various fields. Talent, the scene out. It's just like 70 years ago. At that time, they also took advantage of the global chaos to absorb high-end talents from all over the world. Einstein and others are one of the important talents. It is precisely because of that wave of operations, this led to the unprecedented development of science and technology in the United States, establishing its status as a superpower in one fell swoop. God help our country, America. The corners of Jobs' lips curled up, equally excited. Those 80 million people are just gifts. What he really cares about are these high-end talents. With them, the development of the United States will go further, even try to imitate China and develop super large weapons against monsters, double cultivation of extraordinary and technology, embark on a path of unprecedented greatness. It's almost time. He took a deep breath and looked at his secretary. You notify other countries and follow the scheduled plan to lock the countries on the list and launch the corresponding number of missiles. Nuclear warhead. This nuclear strike. He listed dozens of countries. After analysis and research by weapons science experts, the corresponding number of nuclear equivalents has been formulated. To ensure that the monsters within its territory can be completely destroyed. 3 hours later, the United States takes the lead, the other 3 permanent members cooperate, and other countries respond. Nuclear bomb cleaning plan. Start quietly. Hundreds of nuclear warheads were launched from the territory of the 4 permanent countries, including the United States and Gaul, to carry out precise strikes against the countries on the list. Within each country, mushroom clouds rise into the sky. The terrifying light and heat energy melted everything in the center. Massive nuclear radiation, it filled the air and caused countless casualties, and those monsters that descended also died in painful wails. Even the 4th level. No exception. The most powerful weapon of human technological civilization has once again demonstrated its terrifying lethality. It truly purifies everything. At the same time, China Monster Research Institute, 46 countries have all become hell on earth. Yang Mo looked at the images transmitted back by the satellite inside. Mushroom clouds bloom quietly, ended the monster crisis in various countries. Likewise, it also ended this country, and the United States, in this nuclear attack. It can be said to be the biggest winner. Not only has it achieved high international prestige, but it has also attracted a large number of high-end talents. Leave it to normal times, China will definitely take action to compete with it, but the test of civilization is coming. China is now focused on development and only wants to fully digest controllable nuclear fusion technology, convert it into technological heritage. To realize the complete science fiction heaven plan as soon as possible. Dean. There is new progress in the culture chamber. The chip fell off the plant automatically. At this moment, Zhao Ziyan hurriedly ran in. What? Yang Mo stood up suddenly, surprised. No hesitation, take Zhao Ziyan and rushed to the training warehouse. Outside the cultivation warehouse, the researchers entered the warehouse and took out the chip that fell off. Of the crowd quickly gathered around, looking at it curiously. A fingernail size, the whole body is covered with complex components, and it also carries some energy fluctuations. His Such a precise structure, the number of internal components may have exceeded the photolithography machine that can be produced by current human technology. It also has slight energy fluctuations. It should be a type of energy chip. 7,000 monster corpses have finally been cultivated. Is this what Queen Mother she wants? Dean, the Dean is here. Everyone was having a heated discussion after seeing Yang Mo quickly gave way to a path. It's the chips that are ripe, not the fruit. Yang Mo looked at the chip, which was the size of a fingernail, and subconsciously looked at Zhao Ziyan behind him. Could it be that the Queen Mother of the West is really a great scientist among the Demon Clan? The Queen Mother of the West, a monster clan, is doing research on science and technology and civilization instead of doing business. He swallowed. After a while, just then he came back to his senses and told everyone, let's test its function first. Ancient secrets. It's too long ago and confusing. Urgent priority. It is to analyze and test the chip to see its internal structure in chip functions. Ps. Thank you for your support. In the current new book issue, 2 chapters will be updated every day. When it is released next week, it will be updated with 20,000 words a day. Chapter 80 Human Gene Database, the cornerstone of the National Ascension Plan. Following Yang Mo's order, the entire institute took action, started chipboard level testing, material testing, wafer CP testing, FT testing, SLT testing, functional testing, and other projects. 1 day later, researchers from various fields crowded into the dean's office excitedly. In their hands. This is a detailed chip analysis report. Dean, we have made statistics on the internal components of the Mandui chip. It contains at least 1,000 billion transistors, which exceeds the limit of chips that modern civilization can create. Its material is not a traditional silicon wafer, it is a new type of unknown material. The CP test shows that its performance is at the extreme optimal state, and it can execute any complex arithmetic instructions and real-life interactive instructions. In the SLT test, its input pipe applies the required excitation signal frequency, which is always maintained above the peak value. Everyone came up in turn. Forward, report their respective test analysis results. Every result. If word spreads, it will be enough to cause a global sensation. The performance of this chip that grows from a tree completely exceeds the limits of chips that can be produced by today's technological civilization. All aspects of testing are top-notch. It can be called the most perfect chip in the world. Dean, we also found that the Mandui chip carries 120,000 genetic information, which exactly corresponds to the genetic sequence of the 23 pairs of chromosomes in the human body. A domestic genetics researcher, the old professor, also stepped forward, trembling with excitement. 120,000 genes, do you know what this means? As soon as he finished speaking, the other researchers' eyes widened. A glance at each other, the focus was on the old professor. Everyone's face, they are all filled with shock and disbelief. What does it mean? Zhao Ziyan blinked, not quite understanding everyone's reaction. It means that it contains the complete human genetic database. Yang Mo looked at the fanatical old professor and answered for him. The genetics of modern scientific and technological civilization has not existed since its establishment 100 years ago. The research on human genes has remained at the 1% level. In the past life, when Chinese scientists formulated the science fiction heaven plan, they included the ultimate concept of nationwide ascension. The purpose is, everyone is like a dragon, and the whole country will rise among them. The most difficult level to overcome is the field of human genes. Countless scientists in previous lives have worked hard to research frantically from monsters and rewards items from civilization trials. The corresponding genetic technology could not be found. Eventually, the idea of nationwide ascension was put on hold and was not studied further. I didn't expect this genetic technology that China had longed for in the previous life was actually hidden in the 12-sided crystal. It's a pity, the test of civilization in the previous life came fiercely, and all countries tried every means to continue civilization with the help of a 12-sided crystal. They are all forced to embark on the extraordinary path. No one has discovered the connection between the 12-sided crystals recorded in the classic of mountains and seas and the immortal tree. If we can decipher these 120,000 genetic messages, our country's genetic research will enter a whole new field. Yang Mo took a deep breath and quietly tightened his grip. Fist, maybe the concept of national ascension that he could not complete in his previous life, he can perfect it in this life and put it into practice. Zhao Ziyan swallowed. After listening to Yang Mo's explanation, she finally understood why everyone was so happy and excited. This chip, it contains a complete treasure of human genes. Dean, our functional testing has also made new discoveries. Following, another researcher came forward and submitted a research report. When we were performing functional tests on the Mandui chip, we captured weak and long special energy fluctuations. It seems to be autonomous. The ability to modify genetic information. Hearing this, Yang Mo's expression moved slightly, and he subconsciously took the report from the other party's hand. He flipped through quickly. In the report, the functional test status of the chip is described in detail, and it seems that it can be integrated into the human body, automatically modify genetic information. Is this what Queen Mother she really wants? His heart sank, and he had a vague guess. The Queen Mother of the West lived secretly in Kunlun Mountain, cultivated many magical plants from immortal trees, and sent 2 enlightened beasts to guard her. Purpose, most likely it is for the Mandui chip. What he doesn't understand is, as a demon clan, why does the Queen Mother of the West want the Mandui chip to know? The body structure of the demon race is completely different from that of the human race. Dean, I think it is necessary to conduct human experiments. The researcher suddenly said, to understand the function of the Mandui chip, only experiments can find the truth. Everyone heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other. Soon a consensus was reached. I think this experiment is very necessary to do. You really need to experiment. Yang Yamo nodded and said thoughtfully, but the experimental subject, he glanced at everyone. Mandui chip, unknown and mysterious. No one can say whether there will be any uncontrollable situations in the experiment. I'll do it. Let me do it. You are only in your 30s. You are still young. I am a lot older. Dean, let me do it. I am the only one in my family. The researchers present raised their hands one after another. Scramble, they are all willing to serve as guinea pigs and accept the experiment of Mandui chip. As a scientific researcher, each of them have the spirit of dedicating themselves to science and sacrificing everything. Dean, let me do it. While Yang Yamo was hesitant, Zhao Ziyan's voice sounded quietly. You? Yang Yamo frowned slightly. Forget about the scientific researchers. He didn't expect that Zhao Ziyan would also compete to be the guinea pig. Among the people present, I am the youngest and the most energetic. Zhao Ziyan nodded and said seriously, the effect of the chip on me should be the most ideal. You can monitor the clearest and most accurate experimental data feedback. Just a moment ago, she has thought it through. A Mandui chip. It took 2 months. It was born after devouring 7,000 monsters, extremely valuable, and it is related to state secrets. Choosing a death row prisoner would, on the one hand, risk exposing the Mandui chip, and on the other hand, it would be difficult to get active cooperation from the experimenter. In case the other party conceals something, the chip is almost wasted. The safest way is to select from within the institute. Loyalty is absolutely guaranteed, and she, besides Yang Mo and the researchers, she was the core staff member who participated in the entire process of cultivating the 12-sided crystal. Learn all the information about the chip. It is most suitable to be this experimental subject. Have you thought about it? Yang Yamo looked deeply at Zhao Ziyan. I've thought about it. Zhao Ziyan met Yang Mo's gaze, her gaze firm without any flickering. Everyone present, they are all national-level researchers and play an important role in monster research, and Yang Mo is the backbone of the institute. Only her performing secretarial work is not irreplaceable. Take 10,000 steps back. Even if something goes wrong with the experiment, there will not be much loss to the institute.